I think most of us watching this would agree that Xbox makes money. Like, that's uncontroversial, right? Xbox makes money. I'm not gonna get dragged into an alley behind a Walgreens for saying that in public, unless I'm in San Francisco. That place is not safe. But we all agree that Xbox is a successful brand. Sure, it's not the most successful brand, and there are obviously a few things that need to be changed about it if Microsoft wants it to be more successful. Like, for starters, they could go into the 343 offices and fire the herd of geese disguised as whoever's calling the shots for Halo. They could also maybe think about releasing an MCC style collection for Gears of War, because that's probably a much better use of the IP than doing nothing at all with it. The point is, Xbox isn't perfect, and they're probably the furthest thing from it when it comes to major game companies today, but they are indeed making money, and they are indeed profitable. The Xbox is an extremely recognizable brand, and obviously if the venture wasn't profitable, Microsoft wouldn't do it. Granted, Microsoft does have kind of a habit of holding on to failed ideas with shocking tone deafness, which is why my PC still tries to convince me that I should totally use Microsoft Edge instead of Chrome, and that I should absolutely pay for Microsoft Office instead of just using Google Docs. I mean, at least they left behind the stupid panel UI from Windows 8. I don't know who approved that, but it was dumb. It's probably that fucking hedgehog running around the offices. But again, circling back to the thesis of this video, it shouldn't be controversial to say that Xbox makes money. And I remember the times in which nobody would ever think twice about that statement, but the times they are a-changin' into much stupider times. So it was revealed the other day that Microsoft actually had a pretty solid fiscal year. In fact, it was their second best year ever. According to this report by VGC, for the fourth quarter ended on June 30th, 2023, the company said gaming revenue increased $36 million, or 1% compared to the corresponding period of the previous fiscal year. Quarterly Xbox content and services revenue was up 5% year over year, driven by growth in third-party content and Xbox Game Pass, but that was offset by a 13% decline in hardware revenue due to a lower volume of consoles sold. So basically, there was a decline in hardware this year because, yeah, obviously, the further away from the launch of the console you get, the less consoles you're going to sell, but that was made up for by an increase of software sales and subscription services. So, you know, at the end of the day, it was a W. It was also revealed that Microsoft's fourth quarter gaming sales hit nearly $3.5 billion, the second highest for the Xbox division ever. And if that was too many words, I'll just throw this tweet from Dom's Plane up on screen for a few seconds and you can read over it. It sums it up pretty nicely. Basically, Xbox is doing pretty well right now, and it seems things are in a much better financial place right now than they were at this point in the Xbox One's life cycle, although that's not really saying a whole lot because that lemonade stand guy who didn't have grapes was probably in a better financial place than the Xbox One, but I digress. Ooh, I just got an email. The sizzling summer sale is here from my local firearms store. Well, good golly gosh, better go get me some firearms. Xbox is doing pretty well right now, which is probably why Microsoft was so confident in the Activision acquisition in the first place. Because, like, if Xbox was a dying brand that nobody liked and Microsoft wasn't making any money off of it, they wouldn't be putting so much money and effort into expanding it, you know? And just because Microsoft isn't making as much gaming money as Sony and Nintendo, that doesn't mean they aren't successful, which is, I think, a really important thing to point out. Like, yeah, the PS5 may be selling more units than the Xbox Series, but Microsoft is still generating billions of dollars a year from the Xbox brand, so why would they stop? Like, you think Microsoft is going to just take its ball and go home because Sony hurt its feelings? No, it doesn't work like that. Nothing works like that. If that's how business worked, there would only ever be like 2 to 3 businesses ever, all the time, everywhere, you know? There's a big difference between, oh, we're being forced out of the market, and, oh, we're not making as much money as the top people, but we're still making money. You see this in literally every field. It's completely normal. And until Xbox is actively losing money, or Microsoft rather, is actively losing money hand over fist year after year on the Xbox, they're going to stick around. Because again, almost $3.5 billion in the fourth quarter. That's a lot of money. Like, who cares if that's not the most money possible in the gaming industry? That's still a lot of money. But once these numbers came out, it took like 5 seconds for PlayStation Twitter to pounce on it and completely misrepresent the situation. Or I guess it's PlayStation X now instead of PlayStation Twitter, but fuck you, Elon, I'm still calling it Twitter. Seriously, why the fuck did you do this? It's the dumbest thing imaginable. So whip out your Postmates and order yourself a Wendy's Biggie Bag because we're reading some more dumb tweets together today. Holy hell, I talked for 8 minutes before getting to the screenshots. I have too many things to say sometimes. Profit is important. Of course you get more revenue when you buy companies as that uppers your total revenue. So what? Yes. I love it when things upper my total revenue. Also, you realize that the Activision deal hasn't gone through yet, right? Like, Activision revenue was not included in the fiscal year that just ended because obviously, I completely lost my train of thought with how fucking stupid this notion is. And before you say like, oh, well, he's talking about Bethesda, he's talking about the studios they already bought. What fucking games did Bethesda release in this last fiscal year, you know? It's not like the fiscal year in question was being dominated by Bethesda games, unless you want to count Redfall, which I don't think anybody wants to do. If anything, you should be bracing yourself for how much this number is going to skyrocket in the future. Because remember, Microsoft just reported its second best year for Xbox revenue. Second best year. And that's before the Activision acquisition. That's before Starfield. That's before Bethesda really gets back on their feet and starts making good games again. So this idea that you're putting forward, like, oh, of course it's because they bought companies. It's because they bought some companies, all the while just forgetting the fact that one of the big acquisitions hasn't gone through yet, and the other one did hardly anything in the time period we're talking about. Like, is it just impossible for you to accept that Xbox makes money sometimes? Bad numbers, like usual, from Pot of Greed. Is that comedy? Is this comedy? You look, $3.5 billion. Man, those are some bad numbers. What's my name? Pot of Greed? Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Nothing Xbox does will make you guys happy. The numbers are bad. There's no denying in that. Well, no, actually there is denying in that. Because, like, without even looking at the numbers, let's just look at the situation. Xbox, gaming brand. They've been around for decades, been around for a long time, one of the most recognizable names in gaming, and they just had their second best year ever. Second best year ever. Whoa! The numbers are bad. There's no denying in that.
Look at that door, dude. See that door right there? One marked pirate. You think a pirate lives in there?
I see a door marked private. Is that the door you're talking about?
No, I was talking.
Yep.
I didn't say.
No,
What did you hear?
I heard you say you saw a door marked pirate.
Yes,
is there a
that's what I was
pirate
talking-
living in there?
No, see, that's not what I'm saying.
Like, I don't even have to look at the numbers. I can just look at the situation and tell you you're a fucking idiot. Microsoft likes to spin bad numbers as good. They find a metric that suits them and ignore all the bad ones. See, normally I would agree with this. I've talked about this in videos before, I think? Question mark? I feel like I've talked about this. How a lot of companies just like to pick and choose numbers that they want to talk about, which is one of the ways that you know a game, like a live service game, is doing poorly when they start talking about like monthly active users and nothing else, because monthly active users is one of the most easily manipulated metrics around. So like on one hand, I get what you're getting at here, but they're talking about revenue. Like they're talking about the money they make total. Like this isn't some, they're not trying to trick you. They're literally just being like, here's the money I made. And you're like, whoa, hey, they're trying to spin this. They're trying to find one metric they're looking for a metric that'll suit their agenda. But all the while Microsoft's just like, look, here's the money. Like, I understand what you're getting at, but that's very obviously not happening here. They're lying again. The Series S is now bottlenecking more third-party games and forcing them to be delayed. When is the last time you saw any new Starfield marketing or actual gameplay clips? If Xbox was a person, and then a picture of Donald Trump in like a prison uniform. This is normal. This is normal. This is normal behavior. Also, funny that you say, when's the last time you saw any new Starfield marketing? I mean, I see new Starfield hype campaigns on Twitter like every week. Maybe every other week if you want to be generous. There is so much hype around Starfield. I really don't know why you brought Starfield up at all here. So they were still minus 13% for console revenue and only 1% for game revenue. This is a good year. Let me just break this down into very, very simple Reddit explain like I'm 5 terms. So the Xbox Series consoles came out in 2020. It is now 2023. The majority of people who were really interested in buying an Xbox have already bought an Xbox. Xbox also really prides itself and pushes itself with Game Pass, a subscription service, you know, which you would think would encourage people not to buy as many games. And yet, game revenue still went up for them, which would mean there's a lot of people using their services, and that's a good thing. Also, the fact that console revenue was down 13%, and yet gaming revenue still made up for it enough to the point that this was their second best year on record, this is a very good thing for Xbox because it proves how active their player base is. Also, game consoles are sold at a loss anyways. Like, across the board, game consoles are sold at a loss. That's how it's always been, you know. These companies, they make the consoles, they sell them at a loss, and then they make that money up on game revenue. So, yes, it's exactly what you just described as a bad thing, except it's actually a good thing. Because... Let's just move on. Funny thing is that as the world grows in number, this will happen too. What I want to know is what is market share growth or things like that. That's a new one. That's a new one. Xbox had their second best year ever, but you know what? That's not really a big deal because, you know, the world's growing in number. I'll remember that next time PlayStation guys want to boast about like, ho, PlayStation has sold more consoles than ever. I can just be like, well, that's actually not a big deal because there's more people than ever. Poor man's PC. I would argue with you, but you're basically right, yeah. They always talk revenue, but never talk profits. Yeah, because they're a corporation. That's how this works. That's not a Microsoft thing, that's an every company thing. Like, every company is going to talk about revenue instead of profits. They will say, like, here's the amount of money we made, and trust us, record high profits. Profits are good, and here's the revenue. Like, that's just what they do in these investor calls, in these, you know, quarterly meetings, because they want to show the biggest number. That's not a Microsoft thing, that's an everyone thing. But just generally speaking, if revenue is up to its second highest point ever, it probably means profits are good as well. See previous point about how if they weren't profitable before, they would have stopped doing it. Also, all of this is irrelevant anyways because literally last month, Phil Spencer confirmed that the business is not operating at a loss, so, like, blah, blah, blah. This is the result of buying shills, flying folks out, whining and dining, giving out free hardware, Game Pass, lying and broken promises, spending $100 billion worth of publishers. I hope that, yeah, okay, J-Dub City, yeah, that's a troll account. And if it's not, fucking yikes. I love how eager the PlayStation fanbase is to dismiss literally anything that doesn't have a Sony logo on it. Like, just say you want a monopoly. Like, you keep dancing around it. You keep dancing around like, oh, we don't want a monopoly. We just really like Sony. Because Microsoft making money, just the sheer concept of Microsoft making money, that frustrates you. Stop dancing around it. Just say it. It's so exhausting having to fucking take a shovel and dig around into the things that you guys say because you won't say them yourselves because you're PlayStation players and you're just above that. You're above the console war, but also here's more console war. Sony is the best company and they have already destroyed Xbox, but also let's still engage with Xbox. Like, fucking god damn it. Like, keep doing it. By all means, keep doing it because I make money off of you people and I like doing it because it's fun and it's funny and it gives me the opportunity to make stupid edits in my videos with references to things that I like. Like, I remember a few years ago, I made a joke comparing the background music of the Uno PC game and I compared it to the music that you hear walking from the lobby through the hallway into downtown Disney from the Grand Californian Hotel. And one singular person got the joke and I was like, fuck yeah, that's why I do this. I also love how many people come at me and call me an Xbox fanboy when I literally don't have one. I just play PC. I just play PC and I make fun of people because it's funny and you people are funny. I'll make fun of Xbox fanboys, trust me, I'm gonna make fun of Xbox fanboys. I have made fun of Xbox fanboys. I will continue to make fun of Xbox fanboys. But look, the fact of the matter is, the PlayStation guys, you guys are way louder, your arguments are way dumber, and you're way more full of yourselves. So I'm gonna keep making fun of you. If you don't like that I'm making fun of you, maybe you should stop doing the thing that's going to get people to make fun of you. I don't know why I went on this. I don't know why I went on this tirade. Yeah, okay, anyways, toodles.